the US and Venezuela have been at the center. So
and Xi Jinping and others say, well, you know what, the US can do it, we can do it. If Israel,
who has been key buyers and investors in Venezuela on oil and influence. So any offer to pivot to the US market would have enormous geopolitical consequences and potentially damaging other strategic ties and economic lifelines for the American economy. So yeah, well, anybody who wants to pretend this is about a dictator being taken down, blah blah blah, please lie to yourself. Nobody's buying that. Nobody's buying that at this time and age, please. Yeah, so let's continue. Yep.
she's saying all this stuff, but people who are much more expert on Venezuela than me are saying that actually she's almost certainly done a deal with the American government, or in the process of doing a deal. And Rubio hinted at this yesterday, for her to stay in power, for the rest of the regime and the government to stay in power, because they haven't come out and said the entire government should go. They haven't got everyone else who's accused of drug trafficking in the Venezuelan government. And by the way, Donald Trump has thrown Mariana Machado, the Nobel Peace Prize winning Venezuelan opposition.
I want to underscore this. She won the Nobel. The opposition is largely coalesced around her. Opposition is a tricky term in Venezuela because it's not a monolith, but they've largely coalesced around her. One would have thought that he would say, and we have this woman waiting in the wings, and she's ready to take over. He basically threw her under the bus during the press conference yesterday in favor of the sitting vice president of Venezuela.
Yeah, because they always try to pick someone that they can actually control. Not someone that is going to do any good for the country. Nope, nobody cares about you. Nobody cares about your people. Nobody cares about nothing. As long as America can get their way with anything, they will take. And we've been saying this in Africa so many times, and a lot of people have been like, oh, nobody's controlling your government, yada, yada, yada. Yeah, right. So you just think we line up and we vote and democracy works? Really? Is that what you think? Anyway.
Yeah, it's classic Donald Trump, where he basically upsets everyone and pisses off everyone. So you're the opposition are thinking this is going to be our moment. He throws the opposition leader under the bus. By the way, with Donald Trump, it's always personal. He's been annoyed that she won the Nobel Peace Prize that he thought was his. That's what this is about. Let's be very open about it. Trump is annoyed at this woman for winning a prize that he thought he should have. Even though she sucked up to him, she dedicated the prize to him, she started talking like him. Doesn't matter. Donald Trump will throw everyone under the bus. He threw her under the bus. So he's got rid of...
Imagine being mad that somebody else got a Nobel Peace Prize that you thought was supposed to be yours. Like, it was a prize for you. It was, you were entitled to it. Not strange at all.
Maduro. He's upset the global south, a lot of the developing world, a lot of those of us who believe in international law and national sovereignty. And at the same time, he hasn't appeased or made the Venezuelan opposition abroad happy, because he hasn't put their people in power either. So he's just done what the oil companies want. Let's be honest, he promised American oil companies a lot of money if they voted for him, if they endorsed him, if they donated to him during...
So basically this man was actually campaigning while making deals to all these rich people who are in oil business, that if I win, I will take care of you. Not strange at all, huh?
The campaign, and this is a reward. And I think more Democrats, more people should be pointing out this oil argument is not some conspiracy theory. It's happening in plain sight. And I know just someone like James Tallarico, who's running for the...
And the funny thing is that it's not just oil, honestly. I mean, for Venezuela, it's probably oil. But then you have every part of the world where they want to take something. If the American government wants to take something from you, first of all, they strip you of your humanity. They say what a dictator you are. I mean, it's starting to feel like if America calls you a dictator, I know this is a horrible comparison, but it's starting to feel like if America calls you a dictator, you're actually a good person. As bad as that might sound, it feels like that's how far we have dropped. That's, as humanity, we are like on that lane. So
Senate in Texas made this argument very eloquently on social media yesterday. I think more Democrats need to be pointing this brazen corruption out. Americans don't want our military and our government to go to war in general. They certainly don't want to go to war for some 19th century imperialist project.
By the way, Donald Trump brought up the Nobel Peace Prize again, or at least the idea that he keeps on solving wars. He upped it to 8 1/4 conflicts that he ended.
which war is this man settling, though? Which war is he ending? I mean, he's literally starting a new war, but let's be blind to that. I mean, forget that happened. Ladies and gentlemen of the jury, just kick that thought out of your head.
He actually said this yesterday, talking about Cambodia and Thailand. That's the core.
Can I just say, I mean, can we finally put this BS to bed that Donald Trump is the peace president, he's anti-war, he's isolationist, he's on a neocon. This man bombed 7 countries, Ali, last year. 7 countries. I can't think of...
7 countries. 7. This is coming from somebody that said they would end the war within the first day in office. 7. Gosh, America's fallen.
An American president in living memory who bombed 7 countries in a year: Nigeria, Somalia, Yemen, Syria, Iran, Iraq, Venezuela. He bombed these countries in 1 year, and then he begins the new year threatening Iran. He said we're locked and loaded, and then he starts January 3rd, bombs Venezuela, and basically kidnaps the president. And I'm glad, Ali, that you
Imagine kidnapping the president of another country. Wow, America. Honestly, like, I feel like at this point, if you're not waking up, or if you're not seeing what your government is actually doing to other countries, you're intentionally being ignorant, intentionally being slow on purpose. So we can't blame you, and you can't claim ignorance on this. You can't say, oh no, it was this, it was that, conspiracy theory, blah, blah, blah. No, you're seeing what's happening, so get on with it.
unlike a lot of other journalists, didn't use the words arrested or detained or captured, because the United States has no authority to do what it did on Saturday.
Yes, you have no authority to interfere in a sovereign nation. How can you kidnap a president of a country and their wife? Wow.
We are not the world's police force. We don't have jurisdiction to go into other countries and just grab their leaders and the first lady of that country and bring them to us. Think about how absurd that is. Does that mean one of your reporters can now indict Trump in their courts and send a SEAL team in here?
One of your reporters published something yesterday afternoon which was very specific. It says there are very specific conditions under which a country can cross into another country to take military action, let alone kidnapping their leader. They're very specific. This is not gray area at all.
Yeah. So J.D. Vance claimed yesterday that the legal rationale for this operation
J.D. Vance, let's listen to him, right?
Was that the DOJ had indicted him. This was a law enforcement operation, which is absurd. Think about that. Can a future American president, can a Democratic president now come in and say, hey, Bukele in El Salvador, don't like him. Let's indict him and send in SEAL Team 6 to get him. Can a foreign country indict Donald Trump in their domestic courts and send in their special forces?
Exactly. Can anybody else do that? Can we just sit down somewhere and say, yeah, we're gonna get him? No, exactly. So why is it that they get to do this to other people and it's not reversed to them, or it's not possible to do it to them, because otherwise you'll be called a terrorist? Exactly. The minute you start planning that shit, you'll be called a terrorist.
To D.C. to try and grab the president of the U.S. This is madness. No one accepts the legal basis for this. And by the way, J.D. Vance, Tulsi Gabbard, all these people spent years saying we're against regime change wars, we're against intervening in Venezuela in Gabbard's case. Where is Tulsi Gabbard right now? Why is J.D. Vance not resigning on principle? What happened to all these people who said Trump would end the endless wars?
Money happened. Money is so good at changing people's opinion. I mean, you'd be shocked how quick your opinion would change the presence of that green paper.
So one of the interesting things about this is whether or not you can go into another country to do any of these things. You point out that if you let this happen, there are real consequences to this. And you write about China and Taiwan. You said on Blue Sky. Yeah. If Xi Jinping invaded Taiwan right now and toppled the president, on what grounds would the United States object or have any credibility to say anything? I mean, simple question. Xi Jinping and his people must be studying this very closely to say, are they going to be able to say that we can't go into Taiwan?
So here's what's interesting. I mentioned earlier that Donald Trump is no different to his predecessors, except that he basically is much more brazen and open about what is going on. But at least...
Honestly, I remember when Americans elected Donald Trump for the second term, and he said some crazy stuff about Ukraine and Russia, and he basically was like, yeah, we want them in, like straight up, not even gonna hide it. You're drowning, but I'm gonna take your house, so you just keep sinking. I want your house anyways. Like, wow, no shame.
His predecessors pretended. There is some value in pretense, Ali, to at least pretend that you're trying to adhere to international law, to at least publicly say we do support international institutions and we support international democratic legal norms. Trump, and by the way, Netanyahu over the last year burning down the post-war architecture of international law will have very real and damaging long-term consequences. We have zero credibility tomorrow to say anything to anyone. And maybe Donald Trump doesn't care, but future American presidents, the American public may care.
Exactly. Every time somebody is gonna do something wrong and America comes in and say, well, you can do that. Well, guess what? Everybody's gonna point to this time and say, well, you did it. How is it that we can do it? I mean, this goes both ways. It's a double-edged sword. So you can't demand respect from other people when you're not giving it.
Vladimir Putin and Xi Jinping and others say, well, you know what? The US can do it, we can do it. If Israel can do it, we can do it. If all of these Western powers can do it, we can do it.
Yep. So you just saw what that was, and that was crazy. So does it change the big picture? Think about it. Does it change the bigger picture? Yes. Oil is a big part of the story. Yes, access to that oil could change Venezuela's future, but it wasn't as easy as Maduro just saying, take our oil and let's be friends. Because politics, sanctions, international laws, and energy market all play a huge role. Tell me what you think. Could this crisis have been avoided if oil was offered directly? Drop a comment down below. I want to hear from you. If you enjoyed this breakdown, hit like and subscribe. We're just getting started. See you in the next video. This is a catch on culture. Thank you so much for watching. Ciao.
If Vladimir Putin